Sheila Guffey here with the Arts Council of Oklahoma City. And since we can't come into your place or any senior living facility right now, we are bringing videos and art supplies to the places so they can continue their art classes and learning. And right now it's especially important since everyone's a little bit stressed out, a little lonely, probably going out of their minds and bored like I am. I'm not a fan of being stuck at home. So anyways, I hope this helps. Today we are going to make some polymer clay flowers. Okay, this should be fun and easy. I limited the amount of supplies since I know all these places don't have all the tools and they don't have a lot of different paints and pigments and brushes. So I'm going to be delivering the clay so that each place has the clay. And then what's great about this medium is you can use any oven, and 275, and these will bake and actually become these great little sculptures that will hopefully cheer some people up. Here's another just to show you. So they all look a little different. Here's another one. So we're gonna focus on the white today though. That way it's a little bit easier and you can have this finished immediately. And plus the pigments, these pigments are absolutely gorgeous. But I like to only use those in my oven that I keep in my car for these type of projects. Wouldn't recommend using these pigments, these color pigments in an oven at home because there's just no way to clean it out, and I can't guarantee that this is not toxic. So at a later point, if you wanted to, we can paint these, and I have really cool metallic jewelry paints that I can go to each place once the restriction is lifted. We can finish these, or they're actually really pretty white. So hopefully this will cheer you up for spring and just be something that you can set out or give to someone, maybe someone else that's going through a hard time and really stressed out, you know, during this craziness. So what kind of clay I'm using is Sculpey. I buy in bulk. It's the biggest one that they have, and you can get it at any craft store. This is my favorite polymer clay to use. It's easier on the hands. And so the other brands, they are just totally different. They're harder to warm up. They're harder to manipulate with your fingers. So maybe for certain types of projects, they'd be okay, but for this type of thing, I would not recommend it. So this brand's awesome. And whenever it's baked and totally done, these things are so durable. It's crazy. I could drop this. I have some magnets on my fridge and they've dropped on the floor I don't know how many times and they don't break. So they're a little more durable than ceramics, which is awesome. So they're lighter. And you get to have it done within an hour. So it's way better. You don't have to wait for someone to fire it and hope that it doesn't break. So yeah, polymer clay is pretty awesome if you haven't used it before. All right, so whenever I deliver the supplies, I'm going to have all the clay broken up. It does not come this way. It comes in a big block, but this block is hard. So I'm gonna make it a little easier, and I'm going to separate, and I'm gonna kind of warm it up, and I'm gonna have them separated into, you know, so many of these balls. And then that way, whenever the activities director brings the seniors together, they can just hand these out, and it's already kind of prepped. It's less work for you. The first step is to give this to hand each senior one of these clay balls, and they need to warm it up. Okay? With this type of clay, it does need to be soft, because if you use it when it's not warmed up, it'll start cracking, and you'll see it. You'll notice right away. It starts kind of flaking and cracking, and it's harder to move it around. So have them just kind of do a little hand exercise and move this around And they can even do it on a table. If somebody has a hand that's hurt and they're only using one hand, they can roll it out on the table. That's fine too. Or they could just hold it. So this doesn't have to be real aggressive, but it should be warmed up for a couple minutes. Everybody at this point, I think, has done some sort of polymer clay project with us, so they should know when it's ready. And you can tell in your hand when it's soft enough. All right? So once it's soft enough, they are going to take this ball and they're going to pinch off little pieces of clay. And we are going to make about 7 to 8 small little pieces or small little balls. Okay? So we're going to pinch a little bit off and try to make them the same size. These are eventually going to become our petals. So pinch it off and you can kind of roll it in your hand. They can also roll it on the table, whatever's easiest. So maybe this size. So you can figure out your first one and then make all of them around the same size. If they are interested in doing a really small flower, they can use less clay. I'm just giving everyone a certain amount as a guideline. Of course, you know, people can use a little less clay if they want to make a tiny flower. So it's up to them. I'm going to make this a little bigger. So once you have the first one, figure out exactly the size, you know, that you want. Okay, so there's my first one. So I just pinched off a little bit. Obviously, that's not the same size. So get a little bit more. Okay, just pinching and no rush. This is relaxing. It's really good. It's really good to work with your hands. It gets out a lot of stress. It's a good way to engage the brain and just relax. So this type of project is very relaxing. That's why I picked it for the first one. I hope this is fun. I think it's fun. Okay, so these are a little bit more the same size. Okay, so I'm gonna continue. And I'm just gonna keep rolling and making 7 to 8 of these. Or as many as your clay, you know, if you make them smaller, you're gonna have more petals. Some people might want a lot more petals. So if you wanna make smaller balls and do it that way and just have lots more petals layered, that's fine. And this kind of project, I want everybody to really love it. Don't get it in the oven until you love it. Otherwise, it's a waste of materials, it's a waste of time. So if you're not liking the direction that your flower's going, wad it up, squish it up, and start over. It's easy. There's plenty of time. You know, I would say this project can be done for sure within an hour. So even if you start again, you're gonna know how to do it, so it'll be pretty quick. Okay, so I've got the last one here. And so at this point, I have all of my little balls. These are going to become petals. So each one, now that we know they're the same size, use your fingers and flatten each one. And the reason we're not using tools today is I want your fingerprints to be part of the texture of the flower. So yeah, we could use a rolling pin. We always have rolling pins and lots of tools, but this project, I really like it that it can be completely hands-on, and your imprints make the entire flower and it looks more realistic. So, and you don't want your petals to be perfect. No flower has some perfect, you know, circular petals. So make this organic and really take your time. If you rush clay projects, you're going to have fingerprints, you're going to have edges that you don't like. Every single thing that you do with clay should be thought about. So be slow and be very patient and really think about how you want this to look. So if you want one end to be a little thinner, like think about the most beautiful flower that somebody's given you or you've seen in your garden. You know, think about those petals. Sometimes there's one edge is smaller and then it's thicker down there, or it curves. Like, you can definitely move this clay and curve it. Once we start putting it together, I'm really gonna have you guys maneuver the petals. All right, so now just be very careful of your fingernails. You do not want a bunch of like choppy, you don't want to look like you have bugs in your garden. So no fingernail marks. Just be mindful. Try to use the tips of your fingers. So, and if you do get a fingernail mark, smooth it out as you go. This will be easier to smooth it out now on one petal than once we have the entire thing done. Because right in there, that's gonna be hard to smooth out, and it's a lot more work and it's gonna take time. So each petal, I want you to, make it, like flatten it, and then take a closer look, see if there's any marks, which there is right there, see? So there's a little mark I don't like. I'm just gonna use my finger and smooth it out, and just lightly, just move your finger around. Don't move it, don't push your finger in so hard that it makes an indentation, unless you want it to be that way. Of course, however you want to do these, if you have something in mind, then you should do it. But if if it's an accident, then probably fix it. Okay, so keep going. Just take all these, flatten them, same thing. And if you have a different flower in mind and you don't want to do a rose, you can make these a different shape. You do not have to do it the same way as us. Honestly, I love it when people branch off on their own. This is just a guideline to help you get started and to make it easy and fun. But if you have something else in mind, once you see the process, you can do your own thing for sure. I mean, I really want people to like what they create. So I hope these will just sit out and make you smile every now and then. Okay, keep going all the way till each 7 of these is flattened out. Okay, and I'm gonna move the camera so you can see it on the table for the next step. Okay, so I've got all of my petals. I am going to go through and really look up close at each one and smooth out a few more things, and just make sure that sometimes little air bubbles will get your clay. I like to push on those and get those out. So each one, I want you to go through and check all of them again. Like this one, look at that big chunk. You don't want to just start doing your flower. A lot of people, they get impatient with art and then they don't love the end result. So just be patient, especially with clay, because you can see every mistake. If you can tell when someone rushed. Okay. So now, you have to make the center of the rose. So we're going to take one of these petals. I personally usually pick the smallest one. That way I leave the bigger petals to do more manipulating later. So I will find the smallest one. Okay, just in case, if you do have a little smaller one, you can use this. And so let me show you again the finished. So we're making the center, okay? Here, if you can't, the blue is kind of easier to see in this light since it's so shiny. So that's what we're doing now. You are going to take this and roll it, okay? So now you have two sides. You can pick which one's your favorite, okay? So there's one There's another. If you don't like either, do it again. Super easy. Just fold it in and roll it, and it automatically kind of makes this really pretty, the center of a flower shape. I personally like this side better versus this one. So I'm going to go with this, and again, I'm going to smooth that one little area out. Okay, that's our center. Now the fun part. We get to take each petal and put it around the center. And this is where you get to be really creative and really manipulate it to exactly the way you want. If you want a closed flower or an open flower, it's up to you. So it's pretty easy. I can see how I'm still pinching. I just wanted this to be a little bit more exaggerated. So I'm just gently moving the clay to where it bends downward. See how it has a lip on it now? Okay, so that's preference, but you know, just kind of move it to where you like it. So I like that little bit of curve. I'm gonna leave it. Now your next petal, you can, now depending on how you want your flower to look, you can put it right up against the bottom. Okay, so see how that would look? Or you can maybe move it up halfway, and then it's gonna be more of like an open flower. So if you wanted a closed rose, you could kind of do them a little bit more level at the bottom, and then really tighten on the ends. You're gonna squish these together. So see how that's gonna it already starts to look like a closed rose. If you want it to be open, you can move this petal and maybe start a little further up. So if you like the look of that, then you would pinch right here. So you don't have to score or anything with polymer clay. You can just push it together, it'll stay. So I'll just leave it about right there. And see how I'm always smoothing. I'm always looking. Every single thing I do, I'm looking, checking, and before I do the next step. Okay, so here. So at this point, you can figure out if you want to put the petal on the other side now, or if you want to kind of overlap them. So say I put it right there. So see how it's looking? And just keep going. And you can move these. Now remember, slow and gentle. You do not want to rip it down because you might smush it and then you're going to have to start over. So just be patient. So see, I'm moving each one down. This is, you know, if you want to make it open. If you do not like that look, then move it back up. So if you did, you know, you can always go back and do something else. So say I didn't like that. Oh no, that's ugly. Let's move it up. So just play with it. That's the best part of art, is the problem solving and the learning, and there's no real right or wrong. You know, you can really do whatever you want and just play and see what looks best to you. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Yours is gonna look better because you're gonna have more time, but I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to hurry it up. Okay. So, at this point, I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to figure out what I like or what I don't like. And if I want to move some things, this is where I'll do it. Figure out if I want these to be bigger, if I want them to curve up. So here, you know, if I wanted to add just a little curve in one spot, you know, I can go and you can use different fingers. All your fingers are different sizes. So, you know, these are your clay tools. Sometimes I want like a good edge and I'll use my pinky and I just push down to where I have like a, you know, little curve. So see what a difference that made? So small little details make a big difference. And now at this point, you can decide how you want these to sit. If you want them, once they're baked, if you want them to lay out, you can kind of leave a little stem on the back of it. So it's already naturally like that. Because that's how I'm holding it. I was holding it and putting all my pieces together. So it kind of made a natural stem. And you can, of course, move this around. Okay. And then figure out, you know, if you want it to sit out on your desk or table and you want it to just lean, that's how it's going to look in the back. So this is the easiest option because it's naturally going to do this anyways. If you want a flat, if you want it to sit straight like that, you can do a couple things. You can ask your activities director for a knife and you can cut it. So like this one, I just cut it right down. So I cut this whole thing off. Okay, and please don't do it. I'm sure the activities directors will help you. It is not hard. This clay is not hard to cut at all, but I would prefer it if my students did not use the knife to cut it. So if you don't like the way it looks there, you can cut it. And you can even pinch it. So let's just pinch it off. So I'm going to pinch it off. Okay. Then it's not perfectly straight. So I'm just going to, this is where you have to be careful. Kind of tap it. Okay. And you tap it and then it'll sit. All right. So you can also use your finger, but this gets hard because you have to be very careful. I don't recommend, I think it's best to cut it, have an activities director cut it because they can be really careful. Because once you get to this, you could really mess up your petals, and I would be sad if you did all that work and it messed up your petals. But yes, you can definitely maneuver the back and get it to sit exactly how you like. All right? Then, once you love it and you're ready to be done, the activities directors are going to have the oven heated up at 275. Okay, so you can, Sculpey clay, they always have the directions on the box. 275, you can bake these for 12 minutes. I would recommend putting a lined foil on a baking sheet and putting these directly on the foil. And this is fine. This is okay for your oven. So don't worry about that. This is made for people's oven. This is the kind of clay that people can do at home, and that's why it's amazing. The pigment is what I don't recommend for an oven you eat out of. So even though they are gorgeous, please wait to do that with me when I have my oven. My car is like Hobby Lobby. I have an oven in the back of it rattling around all the time. It's pretty funny. But it's a champion. It's worked for years and it just rolls around back there. And anyways, so bake these 12 minutes, 275. And please know that when they come out of the oven, that's when they can break. So this kind of clay, it is not hardened in the oven. It hardens when it cools. And so it's going to come out of the oven, and if you touch it, you're going to think, oh, it's not done yet, and you're going to want to put it back in the oven. More than likely, it's probably done. but you have to wait and let it cool to find out. So do not, these things will be like hot rocks. It is amazing how much heat these get in there. So do not let anybody touch them. You might even just take the whole thing out, the whole cookie sheet out, and let the entire thing cool for 10 minutes before you even touch them. I'm used to it, so my fingers are like burnt off, so I usually take them off as I go, but maybe don't do that. I'm not sure. So yeah, they will be bendy as they cool. That is when they can crack, and one of these petals will crack off. But once it's completely cool, it's durable and more than likely it won't break. So just let it cool all the way. Please do not give your seniors their flowers until it's all the way cool, because they will want to touch them, and you know. And also, activities directors, please be checking to make sure. I think, you know, usually they're pretty good at this point about making sure that clay is stuck together. But if they have a petal that looks like it is not attached, just push on it for them before it goes in the oven. So we, you know, Lee and I, we always look for these kind of things. We make sure everything's attached. We make sure there's no fingernail marks, anything like that. You know, if you could just kind of take a little detailed look for them and make sure it looks good before you put it in the oven. And then it's done. So I hope they enjoy. If they don't love the white and they eventually want to do some color, whenever I can, I'm going to bring in some of my jewelry paints, and that will be an option that they can use. And I have a lot of colors for their metallic jewelry paints, so they look like metal, and they are really expensive. That's why I can't leave them at all these facilities, and they're small tubes, so you just need a little bit. But that might be an option later, and we can do that. Do not paint these with acrylic paint. I have done that before, and acrylic paint and polymer clay do not mix. It will seem fine. Then the next day it will turn sticky. Something about the materials, they clash, and it will become so sticky and disgusting that you won't even want to pick these up, and hair will get stuck to it. And I made a huge mistake, and I taught this a long time ago at a class, and we did acrylic painting on these flowers. And the next day I got a lot of phone calls about that they were sticky and gross. So do not use acrylic paint. This kind of Sculpey, they make their own paints, they make their own glosses. They want you to use their stuff and buy it, I guess. So I just don't use your acrylic paint. It will ruin these. Just leave them white. If they really want color or a shimmer on them, we will do that at another time. But I personally like them white. I think it looks really elegant and pretty. So this is how it looks before it's baked. It'll look pretty much the same after it's baked. So I hope you enjoy, and I will see you next week with another video and another project.